The difference between people who break during hard times and people who break through isn't what you think. It's not strength. It's not luck. It's 9 specific thoughts that run through their minds when everything falls apart. And it starts with 9 powerful thoughts that mentally tough people think during their darkest moments. Right now, while you're watching this video, millions of people are going through the hardest chapter of their lives. Job loss, relationship breakups, health scares, financial stress, family conflicts. But there's a small group of people who face these same devastating situations and somehow not only survive, but come out stronger. They don't just get through hard times, they get better because of hard times. What separates them from everyone else? It's not luck, connections, or special circumstances. It's 9 specific thoughts that run through their minds when everything falls apart. And today, you're about to discover every single one of them. Hey there, resilient human! Within the next 36 minutes, you're going to learn the 9 thoughts that push mentally strong people forward during the most difficult periods of their lives. And I promise you this, by the end of this video, you'll understand why some people break under pressure while others break through to their next level of greatness. Here's what nobody talks about. The difference between people who collapse during hard times and people who rise isn't about the size of their problems, it's about the size of their thoughts. But here's the shocking truth that therapists won't tell you. It's not about thinking positive thoughts when life gets hard. It's about thinking powerful thoughts. 3 weeks ago, I received a message that stopped me in my tracks. Nathan, a 43-year-old architect from Portland, wrote to me from what he called the lowest point of my life. He said, 6 months ago, I had everything. A thriving architecture firm, a beautiful home, a marriage I thought was solid. Then, the economy shifted, I lost my 3 biggest clients, couldn't make the mortgage payments, and discovered my wife had been having an affair. I'm now living in a studio apartment, my business is gone, my marriage is over, and I'm 43 years old starting from nothing. Everyone tells me to stay positive, but I feel like I'm drowning. How do you think positive thoughts when your entire life has collapsed? But wait, here's where Nathan's story becomes extraordinary. Nathan isn't alone facing catastrophic life changes. Research from the American Psychological Association shows that 85% of people will face at least one major life crisis that feels completely overwhelming. That means if you're watching this with your family, statistically, most of you will go through a period where everything you counted on disappears. But here's where Nathan's story takes an incredible turn. After he learned the 9 thoughts I'm about to share with you, he sent me another message 12 weeks later. He said, I just signed my first contract for my new architecture firm. It's small, but it's mine. I'm dating someone incredible who loves the person I've become through this struggle. And yesterday, I looked in the mirror and realized I actually like who I am now more than who I was when I had everything. The thoughts you taught me didn't just help me survive the worst period of my life. They helped me build a better life than I ever had before. You know what? That transformation is available to you too, and I'm going to prove it to you right now. But first, let me destroy the biggest lie about getting through hard times. Most people think surviving hard times is about being tough enough to endure pain until it passes. They think resilience means gritting your teeth and waiting for things to get better. But the truth will change everything you believe about difficult periods. Mentally strong people don't just survive hard times. They use hard times as raw material to build something better. Let me show you exactly what I mean. Imagine 2 people losing their job on the same day, same industry, same experience, same financial pressure. Person A thinks, this is a disaster. I'm too old to start over. Who's going to hire me? I'll probably never find something good again. My career is over. Person B thinks, this is terrifying, but it's also freedom. I've been wanting to explore other options, but was too comfortable to leave. Now I have no choice but to bet on myself. What if this leads to something better? Same devastating event. Same initial shock and fear. but completely different mental framework. Person A is thinking about what they've lost. Person B is thinking about what they might gain. And that difference in thinking determines everything that happens next. Here's the part that will blow your mind. Your brain treats your thoughts like instructions for what to look for in reality. When person A thinks, "I'll never find something this good again," their brain starts collecting evidence to support that belief. Every rejection becomes proof. Every closed door becomes confirmation. When person B thinks, "What if this leads to something better?" their brain starts scanning for possibilities. They notice opportunities they would have missed before. They remember skills they'd forgotten they had. Same brain, same situation, different programming. Wait, it gets even more fascinating. Neuroscientists at Harvard Medical School published groundbreaking research in 2024 showing that people who consciously choose empowering thoughts during crises strengthen the neural pathways associated with resilience and problem-solving. Think about that for a moment. You can literally build mental strength by choosing better thoughts during your worst moments. This isn't motivation. This is neuroscience. Your hardest times can become your training ground for mental toughness. Now, let me tell you about Isabella. Isabella was a 1-year-old marketing director who had what looked like a perfect life. Great job, loving fiancé, beautiful apartment in downtown Chicago. Then, in 1 week, her fiancé left her for someone else. Her company laid her off due to budget cuts, and she got diagnosed with a chronic autoimmune condition. She told me, "I went from feeling like I had my whole life figured out to feeling like I had nothing. I couldn't get out of bed for days. I kept thinking, why is everything falling apart at once?" Does this sound familiar? Isabella tried what most people try during devastating periods. She tried to push through with willpower. She tried to distract herself with Netflix and social media. She tried to think positive thoughts that felt completely fake, but none of it worked because she was still thinking like a victim of her circumstances instead of like an architect of her response. Then she learned the first thought I'm going to share with you, and everything began to shift. Pause this video right now. I want you to think about the hardest thing you're dealing with right now. Maybe it's financial stress. Maybe it's a relationship that's falling apart. Maybe it's a health issue. Maybe it's feeling stuck in your career. Whatever it is, notice the thoughts that usually run through your mind when you think about this situation. Are they thinking about what you've lost? Thoughts about what you can't control? Thoughts about how unfair life is? If so, you're thinking like most people think during hard times. But those thoughts keep you stuck in the problem instead of moving you towards solutions. Here's what mentally strong people think instead. The first thought that pushes them forward. The first thought will sound counterintuitive, but it contains profound power. Let me tell you about Marcus first. Marcus was a 39-year-old small business owner whose restaurant was forced to close during economic uncertainty. He'd invested his life savings, worked 80-hour weeks, and built something he was proud of. When he had to shut down, his first reaction was rage and despair. But then he learned this first thought. 6 months later, he launched a catering business that became more successful than his restaurant ever was. When I asked him what changed, he said something that gave me chills. He said, "I stopped asking, why did this happen to me? And started asking, what is this teaching me?" That one shift changed everything. Here's what he discovered. Thought number 1. This situation is happening for me, not to me. This might be the most powerful thought shift you can make during difficult times. When you think something is happening to you, you become a victim of your circumstances. When you think something is happening for you, you become a student of your circumstances. This doesn't mean pretending that painful things aren't painful. It means looking for what this experience is trying to teach you or prepare you for. Marcus realized that losing his restaurant taught him lessons about resilience, financial management, and customer service that made him a better entrepreneur. Failure became his education for future success. Isabella discovered that her health diagnosis forced her to prioritize self-care and set boundaries she'd never had before. The crisis became her wake-up call for a more balanced life. When you shift from "why me" to "what is this teaching me?", something miraculous happens. Your brain stops focusing on the injustice of your situation and starts focusing on the opportunity in your situation. You move from feeling powerless to feeling purposeful. Try this thought the next time you're facing something difficult. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" ask, "What is this preparing me for?" Watch how differently you approach your challenges when you see them as training instead of punishment. But there's an even more powerful thought that literally transforms how you see your future. Let me share something deeply personal with you. 4 years ago, I went through what felt like complete life devastation. My business failed, I went through a painful divorce, and my father was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. For months, I felt like my life was over. Like all my best years were behind me. But then I learned the second thought. And instead of feeling like my life was ending, I started feeling like it was just beginning. Here's thought number 2. My best chapters are still being written. This thought is revolutionary because it does something most people can't do during hard times. It helps you see your current pain as a comma in your story, not a period. When you're in the middle of a crisis, it feels like this is your new permanent reality. Your brain tricks you into thinking that how you feel right now is how you'll always feel. But mentally strong people know something different. They know that every ending is also a beginning. Every loss creates space for something new. Every breakdown can become a breakthrough. Nathan, the architect who lost everything, told me this thought saved his life. He said, "When I was sleeping on that air mattress in my studio apartment, I kept reminding myself that this was just one chapter, not the whole book." That thought gave me hope when I had no other reason to hope. Isabella used this thought when she felt like her diagnosis had ruined her future. Instead of thinking, "My life is over," she started thinking, "My life is changing direction, and I don't know where it's leading yet." That shift from finality to possibility changed everything. When you remind yourself that your best chapters are still being written, you stop grieving your future and start creating it. You stop focusing on what's ending and start getting curious about what's beginning. But here's the thought that will absolutely revolutionize how you handle setbacks. Nobody talks about this one. Thought number 3. I am stronger than anything life can throw at me. I can hear you thinking, but what if I don't feel strong? What if I feel completely broken? Here's what mentally strong people understand that others don't. Strength isn't about not feeling broken. Strength is about continuing to move forward, even when you feel broken. You've already proven this thought true, even if you don't realize it. You've survived 100% of your worst days so far. Every crisis you thought would destroy you, you survived. Every heartbreak you thought you couldn't handle, you handled. Every loss you thought would end you, you survived. You have a perfect track record of getting through hard times. That's not luck, that's strength. Marcus used this thought when he was facing bankruptcy and didn't know how he'd pay rent. Instead of focusing on how overwhelmed he felt, he reminded himself of every other impossible situation he'd navigated. That confidence in his proven resilience gave him the courage to keep taking action. Isabella used this thought during her most painful medical treatments. She said, "When the pain was unbearable, I would think about every other unbearable thing I'd gotten through. It reminded me that I'm tougher than I think I am. This isn't about pretending you're invincible. This is about remembering that you're more resilient than you realize." When you remind yourself, "I am stronger than anything life can throw at me," you access reserves of strength you forgot you had. You stop questioning whether you can handle your situation and start focusing on how you'll handle it. Wait, it gets even more powerful. Let me tell you about thought number 4. This one literally changes how you see every obstacle in your path. Every setback is setting me up for a comeback. This thought is based on a principle that successful people understand but struggle victims miss. Setbacks aren't endings, they're redirections. They're not proof that you're failing, they're information about what needs to change. Let me tell you about Sophia. Sophia was a 26-year-old nurse who got passed over for a promotion she'd been working toward for 2 years. She was devastated and felt like giving up on her career goals. But then she started thinking, this setback is setting me up for a comeback. Instead of wallowing in disappointment, she asked herself, what is this rejection teaching me? What do I need to develop or change? She realized she needed additional certifications and better communication skills. She spent the next year developing those areas. When the next promotion opportunity came up, not only did she get it, but she was promoted to 2 levels higher than the original position she'd wanted. The setback became the setup for a much bigger success. Marcus experienced this when his first catering event was a complete disaster. Everything that could go wrong went wrong. He could have seen this as proof that he wasn't cut out for the catering business. Instead, he thought, this setback is setting me up for a comeback. He used every mistake from that event as a learning opportunity. His second event was flawless, and word of mouth from that event built his entire business. The disaster became the foundation of his success. When you think, every setback is setting me up for a comeback, you stop seeing obstacles as dead ends and start seeing them as detours that might lead to something better than your original plan. But here's what nobody prepared you for. The moment you start thinking like this consistently, let me paint you a picture of what's waiting for you. It's been 6 months since today. Someone asks you about the hardest period of your life. But instead of talking about it like a victim, you talk about it like a warrior. You say things like, that was the period that taught me who I really was. That's when I discovered strength I didn't know I had. That's when I learned to bet on myself. That's when my real life began. The same experiences that once felt like punishment now feel like preparation. The same setbacks that once felt like endings now feel like beginnings. That transformation happens through the power of these thoughts. But first, let me address something I know you're wondering. Some of you are thinking, what if my situation is really hopeless? What if these thoughts feel fake when I'm facing serious problems? That's exactly why I need to tell you about Elena. Elena was a 7-year-old single mother who was diagnosed with cancer while going through a bitter divorce and facing foreclosure on her home. She had 3 teenagers, no savings, and was looking at months of chemotherapy. When someone told her about these thoughts, her first reaction was anger. You want me to pretend this is all happening for my benefit? That's insulting. Some situations are just horrible. But she was desperate enough to try anything. Here's what happened. The thoughts didn't make her cancer disappear. They didn't solve her financial problems overnight. But they changed how she approached these challenges. Instead of thinking, why is all this happening to me? She started thinking, what is this teaching my children about resilience? Instead of thinking my life is over, she started thinking, this is the hardest chapter, but it's not the last chapter. Instead of thinking, I can't handle this, she started thinking, I'm stronger than I realized. 18 months later, Elena was cancer-free, had started her own consulting business from home, and her relationship with her children was stronger than ever. She told me, the thoughts didn't make my problems easier, but they made me stronger. And when I got stronger, I was able to solve problems I couldn't solve before. That's the power of thinking like a warrior instead of thinking like a victim. And it brings us to thought number 5. This might be the most important one of all. I control my response, and my response determines my results. This thought contains the secret to personal power that most people never discover. You can't control what happens to you, but you can always control what happens to you. Your response to any situation is the one thing that remains completely within your power, no matter how powerless everything else makes you feel. Nathan used this thought when he was facing bankruptcy and divorce simultaneously. He said, "I realized I could respond with bitterness and blame, or I could respond with determination and learning. I chose determination, and that choice changed the trajectory of everything." Sophia used this thought when she passed over for promotion. She could have responded with resentment and given up. Instead, she responded with curiosity and growth. That response led to a better opportunity than she originally wanted. When you think, "I control my response, and my response determines my results," you reclaim power in situations that feel completely powerless. You stop being a victim of your circumstances and start being the architect of your outcome. But wait, there's something even more powerful. Let me tell you about thought number 6. This one literally transforms your relationship with pain. This pain is temporary, but the strength I'm building is permanent. Most people try to avoid pain during hard times. They distract themselves, numb themselves, or pretend the pain isn't there. But mentally strong people do something counterintuitive. They use pain as a tool for building strength. They understand that pain is information, not punishment. It's feedback about what needs to change or what you need to develop. Elena discovered this during her cancer treatment. She said, "The physical pain from chemo was horrible, but I realized it was temporary. The mental strength I was building by getting through each day was permanent. I was becoming someone who could handle anything." Marcus learned this when his restaurant failed. The financial pain was devastating, but he used that pain to develop better business skills, stronger financial discipline, and deeper resilience. The pain lasted months. The strength he built lasted for life. When you think, "This pain is temporary, but the strength I'm building is permanent," you stop trying to escape your difficult experiences and start trying to learn from them. You stop seeing pain as something to avoid and start seeing it as something to utilize. Here's thought number 7. And this one changed everything about how you see your future. I'm not going back to who I was before this happened. This thought is revolutionary because it does something most people are afraid to do. It lets go of the fantasy of returning to how things used to be. Most people spend their energy during hard times trying to get back to their old life. But mentally strong people realize something profound. They don't want their old life back. They want to use this experience to build something better. Nathan told me, "I spent months trying to figure out how to get my old life back. Then I realized I didn't want my old life back. That life had problems I was ignoring. This crisis forced me to build something better." Isabella discovered this during her health journey. She said, "I kept wishing I could go back to before my diagnosis. Then I realized that the person before my diagnosis didn't know how to take care of herself. I don't want to be that person again." When you think, "I'm not going back to who I was before this happened," you stop trying to rebuild your old life and start building your new life. You stop grieving the past and start creating the future. But here's the thought that separates people who just survive from people who truly thrive. Thought number 8. This experience is preparing me to help others. This thought is incredibly powerful because it transforms your pain into purpose. When you believe that your struggles are preparing you to help others who will face similar challenges, your suffering gains meaning. You're not just going through something random and pointless. You're developing wisdom, strength, and compassion that you'll be able to share. Marcus now mentors other entrepreneurs who are facing business failures. His painful experience became his qualification to help others. Elena started a support group for single mothers dealing with health crises. Her struggle became her platform for service. Sophia became known as the mentor who helps nurses advance their careers. Her setback became her specialty. When you think, "This experience is preparing me to help others," You transform from victim to victor to valuable. Your pain becomes your purpose. Your struggle becomes your strength. Your mess becomes your message. And finally, here's the ninth and most powerful thought of all. This is the thought that changes everything about how you approach your entire life. I am being forged into who I'm meant to become. This thought recognizes that hard times aren't interruptions to your life story. They're essential chapters in your life story. Steel isn't made strong in comfort. It's made strong under intense heat and pressure. Diamonds aren't formed in easy conditions. They're formed under crushing pressure over time. And you aren't becoming who you're meant to be during easy times. You're being forged during hard times. Every challenge is shaping you. Every setback is strengthening you. Every loss is teaching you. You're not just going through hard times. Hard times are going through you, refining you, developing you into someone stronger and wiser than you were before. Nathan told me, I realized that everything I lost had to be lost for me to become who I needed to become. The easy life I had before kept me small. The hard life I went through made me strong. Elena said, I wouldn't choose cancer, but I can't deny that facing it made me into someone I'm proud to be. I'm braver, stronger, and more alive than I ever was before. When you think I am being forged into who I'm meant to become, you stop resenting your challenges and start embracing them as part of your development. You stop asking, why me? And start asking, who am I becoming? Now, let me show you how these 9 thoughts work together. They create what I call the warrior mindset. Instead of thinking like a victim of your circumstances, you think like a warrior in training. Instead of seeing problems as punishments, you see them as preparation. Instead of focusing on what you're losing, you focus on what you're gaining. Instead of trying to escape your challenges, you embrace them as your education. Let me tell you where you'll be 1 year from now if you start thinking these thoughts consistently. You'll be someone who looks forward to challenges because you know they make you stronger. You'll be someone others come to for wisdom during their hard times. You'll be someone who sees opportunity in every obstacle. You'll be someone who turns setbacks into comebacks. You'll be someone who uses pain as fuel for growth. Most importantly, you'll be someone who looks back on your hardest times with gratitude because you understand they made you who you are. But here's what I need you to understand. These thoughts only work if you practice them consistently, especially when you don't feel like it, especially when they feel untrue, especially when everything in you wants to think like a victim. That's when thinking like a warrior matters most. So, here's what I want you to do right now. Choose 3 of these 9 thoughts that resonate with you most. Write them down where you'll see them every day. And practice thinking them, especially during your most difficult moments. Not when everything is easy. Practice them when everything is hard. Because that's when mental strength is built. That's when warriors are forged. That's when you discover who you really are. What would your life look like if you never felt defeated by circumstances again? What would you attempt if you knew that every setback was setting you up for a comeback? What would you become if you saw every challenge as training for who you're meant to be? Think about that vision. That person already exists inside you. These 9 thoughts just help you remember who you've always been capable of becoming. Remember, hard times are temporary, but the person you become by thinking like a warrior during hard times lasts forever. You've got this. You're stronger than you know. You're more resilient than you've been told, and your best chapters are still being written. If this video helped you today, share it with someone who's going through their own hard time. Your story of strength could be exactly what they need to hear. Let me know in the comments which of these 9 thoughts resonates with you most. And if you want more content that builds mental strength, subscribe and ring that notification bell. Next week, I'm revealing the advanced psychological techniques that Navy SEALs use to stay mentally strong in life-threatening situations. Until then, remember this. You're not just going through hard times. You're growing through hard times. Keep thinking like a warrior. Keep moving forward. Your breakthrough is closer than you think. Here are your 9 warrior thoughts one final time. This situation is happening for me, not to me. My best chapters are still being written. I am stronger than anything life can throw at me. Every setback is setting me up for a comeback. I control my response, and my response determines my results. This pain is temporary, but the strength I'm building is permanent. I'm not going back to who I was before this happened. This experience is preparing me to help others. I am being forged into who I'm meant to become. Think like a warrior. Become unstoppable. You've got this, champion.